common myths about using your own intuition has been, how can you prove that it actually works? How can you know that this is in fact something that you could rely on? How is this possible to use this in terms of your career or in terms of your, life planning and going forward on a daily basis? How can you use this and know? And my attitude to that is every seed of doubt that you have is putting a roadblock in front of you. You need to get over yourself before you could tune into your intuition.
Hi, and welcome to the Entrepreneur Freedom Solutions Show. I am Eric Asbeck, and this is going to be an interesting guest today, something a little different. I have Cindy Shigekuni, and she is the clarity coach, and we're going to talk about eliminating mental roadblocks. So, you're going to learn a lot more about that. So, hi, Cindy, how are you?
Hi, Eric. Thank you for having me. Hello to all your listeners.
Yes. Well, like I say, you're going to be a treat. So let's just kind of jump in and so tell me about eliminating mental roadblocks and clarity coach, that sort of thing, and so tell me about it and why it's so important.
Well, what I've discovered is most of the very, very successful clients that I've worked with in the past have come to me actually seeking my intuition advice. They thought they were coming to me as a coach to help them guide them along in their careers. But in the end, they basically started just saying, what do you see, right? What do you get? Here's a scenario. Help me, walk me through this. How could this be better? What can I do differently? And all of a sudden I thought, wow, this is natural and normal for me, and it's not for them. Why don't I help people, give them a little bit more of an insight into how your intuition can just change your life? It can open up doors, it can bring you opportunities and take advantage of things that people would just be blind to. So here I am as the clarity coach, giving all of my advice that I've given over the years, probably to thousands of people, and I'm taking it, packaging it up, and bringing it forward to the masses. Meaning, after we have our talk, it's going to go out there into the universe. It won't be held inside to just my private clients any longer. And I'm really excited about that.
That's fantastic. And if it's not your kind of go-to, I know that intuition is, it's like sort of an act of faith kind of a thing, because it doesn't have that same kind of logical kind of, it's a different approach. So let me ask you this, because it's probably the best way to kind of get at what's going on here. And that's to say, what are some of the common myths about this, and how would you debunk them?
The common myths about using your own intuition has been, how can you prove that it actually works? How can you know that this is in fact something that you could rely on? How is this possible to use this in terms of your career or in terms of your life planning and going forward on a daily basis? How can you use this and know? And my attitude to that is every seed of doubt that you have is putting a roadblock in front of you. You need to get over yourself before you could tune into your intuition. And that's why you and I talked about this earlier, how we're eliminating the roadblocks to using your intuition, because this is the single most important gift the universe has given you, and it's in everybody. I just am amazed when people choose to ignore it, and I can just highlight it, bring it forward and say, well, what about this? And all of a sudden it's like, aha, the light bulb just comes on.
I never allowed myself to think about that.
They oftentimes have a little kind of a smile or a smirk, because they know, they knew it all along. They just didn't want to admit it. Yeah. That's something that they don't dare admit to themselves, because like yourself, they come from a very, straight-laced background. possibly in finance, they possibly are VCs, or they work in Silicon Valley, and they can't just say, I'm now consulting my intuitive. Let me, I needed an hour. I think now you and I are having this conversation, people would be probably very interested that I have worked with the top level people in companies. And I'm not talking about just the C-suite, I'm talking chairman. And I think that that's something that you and I know, because you're quite intuitive yourself, Eric.
Yes, I am. I have both sides to me. Well, how did you get started? I mean, walk me through it.
Eric, I'll try to make it as short and sweet as possible, because I have thousands of stories that come forward and we don't have time for that.
Okay.
Over tea sometime. Well, my grandmother was a medical intuitive. She was also one of the early health aficionados. She was making that green juice, back in the day. She passed when she was 103, and she had never gone to a doctor, except once, she said, when she slipped and fell, and she broke her arm. Can you imagine reaching the age of 103 and not needing to go to the doctor because she was healthy? But she was also able to identify in other people when they weren't well. And then not only was she able to identify it, but she was able to heal them. She was a Reiki master, and she used her intuition. I literally saw people coming over to her place and watched her do her hands-on healing. And it was quite an experience, especially when, as a young child, I didn't understand what she said because she was speaking in Japanese.
Mm-hmm.
So I kind of grew up around this, thinking that the spirit world is normal and all of this energy stuff is, it's everything. My father used to put me on his lap and I put my hands on his head, and then he'd put me down again. This is when I was a baby, and he'd say, oh, my headache is gone. Thank you. It just was my thing. And so I kept it quiet. Over the years, it became really clear that I was onto something, and not just because of the high grades and potentially a high IQ, but just not even needing to study. And literally, I just knew things. And when you know something, right, Eric? I see your light bulb go off, just like the one behind you. And I know you know what I'm talking. There's a huge difference. I was born with this.
I got it. Well, maybe a way to kind of give people a feel for things is to talk about somebody or some people that you maybe have coached or mentored, and the transformation, what's the real transformation that you've created?
Oh, that's a good question, because I just had a cohort, a program, and it was mainly women. There was a few men, and we covered everything from relationships, dating, how to find love after divorce, after death, after going through maybe transition, moves, and all sorts of things that have happened in the last couple of years. One of them that stood out to me was the woman who had not gone on a date in 25 years.
Oh my.
And that was of her own choosing. She had been hurt in the past. Without going into detail, we kind of smoothed over, we pinpointed, we illuminated it, we released it, we let it go, kind of smoothed her over a little bit, let her work some of the kinks out. Anyway, she is not only dating, but she has a special man in her life, and they are going strong. And this is like a miracle, because she swore to me that she was not interested in dating. She was fine as is, and that she just wanted to, as she said, clear up some self-esteem issues, because she said she doesn't really like herself that much right now, whatever that meant. And like I said, anybody who comes to me gets some sort of a healing, whether they know that they have a roadblock or not. There's something in the back that I will be able to identify, and I'll help them to release. And that's just my thing. I love to do it. That's actually like a high for me. But she was very, very surprised, because she said, absolutely not. I'm not interested in a relationship right now. And I thought, I don't know. This is what she's saying, but I see something else. That's just one example.
Well, it brings to mind many years ago when I was married and young, we had a contractor that did work for us, and we were friendly. We knew each other well and so forth. And so one time I was saying, oh, how about this thing? And doing this particular job, and it involved opening up a wall and doing some things. And he says, well, I really can't say for sure. And I said, well, give me an idea. And, just kind of what are we talking about? And he said, well, if I open the wall and everything is just the way we expect, then it'd be whatever, this thing. But when you open up a wall, you never know what you're going to find behind it. And that's sort of your story about the woman and the other people you talked about makes me, it makes me think about that. Like when we open it up, we're going to find what we find.
Oh my God, Eric, that's perfect. That is the perfect example. Sometimes I always say, when I used to do these in person, I'm doing all on Zoom now, but when I used to do it in person, I always told the clients, just pretend like we've just reached the end of our session and I'm about ready to walk out the door. Ask me that question.
Oh, and by the way, I forgot to mention.
The one that you don't want to ask me. That's the one that I find really juicy. I want to work on that one. Let's do that one first. Let's not talk about the wallpaper.
Great way to approach it. I love that. I love that.
Right? Have no fear. Everything is doable.
Yeah.
There's nothing to be, embarrassed over. There's nothing to be nervous about. In fact, I'm the most zen and cool person that you'll ever meet. And I never go there. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I always make sure that everything is just very clean, it's very pure. Anything that I tell you is within the realm of what you could handle. I already know that, and I am only here to give you information that's beneficial. This is all for the greatest good of all concerned.
Yeah.
And when I start laughing, sometimes it's over a serious thing, and I have to put my hand up because that's when they're giving me more than I want to say. And I'll just like that. It'll be for next time. I mean, this is never ending, Eric. I mean, I've been doing this my whole life, and it just keeps getting better and better.
Yeah.
I think that of all the weddings that I've been to, I think the weddings that I enjoy the most are the people that are like this woman. Oh no, I'll never meet somebody.
Yeah.
Oh, it's not in my cards. Oh, I'm not interested. Oh no, I'm done with dating. Oh, I was married already. I don't ever want to get married. I'll just say, mark my words, I'm going to your wedding. Your voice, your words
I can
are
feel
saying,
it already.
Yeah, the words are coming out of your mouth, and they're not matching up what I'm
They're not coming out of your heart. Yeah,
they're not ringing true. Yes, Eric, that is so important, because when you're not in line, there's no sense in trying to force your intuition. It's like, saying that the Easter bunny is coming and he's going to
We're going to
bring
make
me a
it go
horse.
this way. That's not how it works.
Oh no, it does not work. I mean, otherwise there would be horses everywhere for all the little girls that say, I want a horse. Where's, Santa Claus, bring me a horse. Doesn't work that way. Sorry, but that's how it is. But you have to be really in alignment. You have to clear out everything that doesn't work for you emotionally, and it's always underneath the rug. It's usually unconscious. And I'm very, very gentle. I'm very, very zen. And I want to make sure everybody's like feeling pretty good about themselves first before we start to say, well, what about this? And what about that? Because one of the things that can hold one back is doubt and fear. So two things that will get you every time. And really, if you knew how much fun it is to live a life without anxiety, without worry, without doubt, I mean, you'd be skipping down the street practically, because.
Well, that's perfect, because I was going to ask you, what are some specific roadblocks to watch out for? And I mean, you just said, and we talked about roadblocks a moment ago, but, it sounds like, just that kind of uncertainty, and you said doubt and fear, and, those sort of contracting responses to things that just would cause you to hold back a little bit and put a clamp down on what's surfacing, that's being offered. That's okay. Maybe you're just like, that's not the way I had set my mind that it was going to go, or whatever that kind of
Yes,
That sort
that's
of
so
mental
beautiful.
process like that, that sort of deflects an opening.
That is perfect. I love how you give visuals. That's why you've got the light bulb behind your head. So
Yeah.
if people could remember that, you'll always have something to remind you, just to keep an open channel, keep yourself really centered and calm, because once you clamp down on that hose, it won't come through. And all of that fear, doubt, and worry that's the clamping down of the hose.
Yeah.
In fact, one of the mentors I had, he actually used that very thing, which is amazing that you came up with that just on your own. He said he saw it as a big hose coming from the universe with white light, filling it up and coming down through your head, through your body, trickling straight down into the earth and just cleansing you with this beautiful, brilliant white light. And he said it just took everything out that doesn't belong there, that you don't need anymore, that was holding you back, and just sending it into the earth, harmless and formless. And I thought, this alone is going to be my new meditation, because it just instantly put me at ease. It made me feel like all is well in the world. And it really is, if you knew from my perspective. I mean, what is worry going to do for you, right?
Well, what I'm thinking is like there's sort of like a flag that you could kind of set for yourself, that like anytime that you're being protective, and then you could say, okay, so what's going on here, and so let's take a look and see the avenue to releasing that, so that I can be more open to what's here with my life right here in this moment.
If you just pretend like this is your new normal, and that attitude that you just described is your everyday 24/7 new you, Eric, we'll get back and we'll have another session. We'll have another chat, because I want the listeners to hear how your life has changed. If you do that every day, I'm sure we're going to hear all about it. In fact, one of my clients and mentors, and became my dear, dear friend, was Louise Hay. And she had this publishing house called Hay House. And it talks on and on and on about all of these awakenings that people have had. And they wrote about them.
I'm familiar with her, yes.
Oh, okay. She's wonderful. And I used to watch her in action, making her affirmations in the mirror. And we would just in the morning, because I used to stay with her in San Diego, we would do mirror talk, and it was a hoot. And what we didn't know is she lived on a penthouse. The neighbors could see into, because it was all glass and we didn't have any curtains. So, I come out of my guest room and there she is in the kitchen doing mirror talk. So we'd be in our nightgowns doing mirror talk. And they just thought, what on earth are they doing? We're individually having conversations. We're not talking to each other. We're looking at the wall. They didn't know we had mirrors.
Right.
And we came out onto the balcony later and they're going, what in the world are you doing? And I'm like, what are you talking about? They said, well, you're not the only ones that wake up at dawn,
Oh, right.
And we used to wake up at dawn and we used to do mirror talk. I swear to you, Eric, it changes lives. You just basically look at yourself. You give yourself permission to be who you are, truly and completely. You tell yourself that you love everything about yourself, including your heart, your lungs, your brain, everything. You just bless yourself. And it's an unbelievable thing. It's so simple, but it's odd. Things start to clear up all of a sudden. Everything is working, and you feel really well. It doesn't have anything to do with diet and exercise at that point. It's just you made it happen. You allowed the universal energy to somehow move through you. And it was such a good time. I really feel like if it's not fun, I don't want to do it. And people that are on the precipice of making great change in their life, whether it's retirement or they're thinking about it, or they're now going to embark on something new, whether it's the love life and the dating thing or anything for that matter, they can benefit from this. In fact, my protocol in the morning is now mirror talk, is doing the white light exercise that you actually came up with, Eric, just spontaneously, I'm just saying, and making like a love list, all the things that you love, and, not watching the news, not listening to the naysayers, not telling each other gossip about all the worst things that have happened. And then pretty soon you just say, I don't even care. It doesn't affect you. You just have that look of bliss, and everyone's going to wonder, like, what have you been up to? You look really well. But it is your secret weapon. It is. And when you went like this, I'm saying that's perfect, because it just makes you remember, tune in, the universe is waiting for you. It's got some information that if should you choose to accept it, your mission is to stay open and receptive. And, don't worry about doing it perfectly. I always say, do it imperfect. Because
just
you
allow yourself to just start on the path.
You'll never get to perfection anyway, so forget about it. That's a myth. So you just do it, and you'll just get better and better at it. But the easiest way to do it is just do it imperfectly, on purpose.
Yes. This is so awesome. I'm just kind of mindful of the time. So I'm going to ask you, is there a question you wish that I'd asked? And if so, how would you have answered it?
Well, this just came up for me, and it wasn't anything that we had planned. I actually feel like your listeners need to give themselves permission to do the impossible, because whether this sounds realistic or not, I invite you, I dare you even to give it a try. Because why should somebody else enjoy these seeming miracles when anyone could have this charmed life? I admit I have a very lucky life. I always have, but I believe it's because I've always chosen to listen to my intuition. Anytime that I have overthought, held back, maybe tried to figure it out, like, pros and cons, that is when I missed the boat. And boy, did I really regret that. So I believe that is the number one thing, is what is the most important for your listeners is to just give themselves permission and just, even in doubt, say, give it a try. Because it's going to be like a game. I used to live in Seattle, and I might add, for those that have not lived in Seattle before, it turned out it was the epicenter of healers. There was a college there called Bastyr. And at one point, I had dozens and dozens of healers as my clients. And I thought, how interesting, Eric, that healers, people that are into the holistic naturopathic medicine, thought of using their intuition as normal as going to see your medical doctor or going to the grocery store, even buying, almond milk or whatever it is. They just thought it was completely normal. It's like the new way of living, the open-minded and more accepting way of living. And that, I think, is going to make people move into the future, into this new world that we're looking at, become playful and fun and exciting.
And who doesn't want that?
Interesting.
Who doesn't want that?
Oh, yes. It's all about change. And I love change. In fact, Eric, you may not know this about me, but I'm a huge globetrotter, and I did my sessions all over the world. And the thing that I love the best is noticing that people all over the world, they share the same things. And that's why I thought this is so appropriate for right now. It applies to people anywhere they live, any age, any walk of life, because it didn't matter. I would always get somebody, and was famous for doing these on airplanes. I would always get somebody who would come up to me. They track me down. The word got out. The stewardesses actually in first class were really very, very good about shielding me. But occasionally somebody would get in there and say, hey, listen, can you work on me? I heard about you. And I'm like, who are you? But pretty soon word got out, and I think all people share a similar desire to really find out who they truly are on the inside. They all have these deep questions, these burning questions, like things that would be the question that you ask me as you're walking me to the door after a session at your home, the really important stuff, the thing they were embarrassed or afraid to ask.
So this is perfect. This is perfect. So people, I know that there are people that are going to want to get in touch with you and start to explore this. So is there a way for folks to get in touch with you?
There happens to be a way, Eric. for your listeners only, because as you know, I've been working on a private client basis. But in order to open this intuition field up to more and more people, I decided that I'm going to give programs for many. And your people are invited. This is going to be the first time, and it's not going to be the last, but the inaugural launch is going to be next month. All your listeners have to do is shoot me an email at hello@modernbutterfly.com. hello@modernbutterfly.com.
Awesome.
And I will promise to invite them to my next program. They'll have an introduction of how I work. They'll get to see and feel what it feels like, because I like to do healings, quite honestly, and little readings, and they'll just get a taste. But I'll explain things in more detail. And of course, they can contact you, Eric, and they can also get my information that way.
So, and just to put a time frame on this, we're talking about sort of September, October of 2022. If you're hearing this recording sometime in the future. So info at modernbutterfly. And
excuse me, hello@modernbutterfly.com.
I am so sorry. I have this.
Oh, it's fine.
I'll repeat it. hello@modernbutterfly.com. So,
it's fine. You all just reach out to Eric. That's how you'll be able to get a hold of me. And I have programs that are constantly evolving depending on the groups. People change, people's interests as they continue along in the program change. I am constantly shifting. So stay tuned.
Now, also, I know that you'd mentioned that you have something special for folks that send you that email. So an ebook, if I recall.
Yes, drop the little note that you attended Eric's talk. You will get an ebook on these 3 tips on how to use your intuition in your daily life, but I'll go into more practical ways that you can use this. Everything from choosing the things that you eat to, should you date this person? Is this person going to be a good fit for you? I'm putting out questions there to get you to start thinking.
Sure.
It's going to be interesting. It'll get you kind of curious so that when you attend one of my little webinars, you'll be hungry for more. I think it's all meant to be a taste.
Yes.
Yeah.
So Cindy, what a treat. It's been so fun talking with you. And wow, just what we talked about right now, I know people feel things opening up for themselves. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Eric. It's been an honor and a pleasure, and I look forward to hearing from you people.
Okay.
Take care.
Bye.